What's up, VC? It's Steve again, Harmless Rebel, and it's time for another miscellaneous vinyl update. Man, it's been a long time since I've done one of these. I was just looking at some of this stuff I've had for 7, 8, 9 months, and I know it hasn't been that long since I did one of these miscellaneous vinyl updates, but a lot of this stuff's been around for a while. So let's just kind of jump in. First up, this one I picked up a while ago. I've been trying to find his stuff on vinyl. I've got most of it on CD, but especially his first few albums. This is, I believe, his second self-titled album, but this is Peter Gabriel. I love the artwork on his albums too. No Self-Control, Games Without Frontiers. I'm trying to think what the biggest songs off of this one. This one didn't have the same level of hits that his the albums before it did, but still, just a great album. And I've liked just about everything that Peter Gabriel's done, going all the way back to his days with Genesis. Next up, another really cool album. I found this one. It's an original pressing. I found it still sealed for like $5 or $6. This is West, Bruce, and Lang, Live and Kicking. I think they did 2 or 3 albums together, but I've been a huge Leslie West fan probably since the 80s. I remember my dad playing Mountain. He was a big fan of early Mountain. So am I. I've shown their albums a number of times in my various videos, but I mean, you got Jack Bruce on here too, and it's just a really good live set, and one I recommend checking out if you haven't heard that one. Next up, this one is an interesting one, especially if you're not familiar with the band. Well, I'm sorry, familiar with or a fan of the band, I should say. I'm sure you're all familiar with this artist, but this is 7 from Bob Seger. The earlier Bob Seger stuff, especially the early 70s pre-Silver Bullet band stuff, is really hard to find. And there's still a couple that I'm missing. His earliest stuff, the Bob Seger System, and just the self-titled or the self-named Bob Seger stuff is my favorite. But I like pretty much everything he's done. I grew up on Silver Bullet Band. It was one of my dad's favorite bands. And it just always brings back good memories. But this band here, although it's Bob Seger, this is actually the introduction of the Silver Bullet Band, and this is the first album with them on it, even though they're not credited on the album. It's a pretty solid album. I really like this. It's not as good as the later stuff with the Silver Bullet Band. It's not as good as his earlier, his Bob Seger System stuff, but still a good album. And if you run across it, I recommend picking it up because they're not popping up that often. Next up is Bebop Deluxe Sunburst Finish. This is my second album from Bebop Deluxe. And I really dig it. Just guitar-driven 70s rock. The guitar work on these albums is phenomenal. Definitely worth checking out just for the guitar, but just really good 70s rock. Next up, I don't even remember where I got this one. This is my second or third copy of this. The last copy of this I traded to SMF Captain Howdy a couple years ago, and then I ran across this one for a good price. But this is Pink Floyd, A Nice Pair. If you're not familiar with this, this is basically The Piper at the Gates of Dawn and A Saucer Full of Secrets. It's the two of them in one package here. And this one's actually nice because this is the first time that I've found a copy of the uncensored, where that picture there and that picture there both are uncensored. Next up, this one is one that you just don't run across. It was only a promo. That was the only way to get it. And I think I may have shown this before, but this is they call it the EPA Live Concert Series, but this is Molly Hatchet Live. It's a 2-album set, and what the first album is, it's the first album is the live album. The second album is the album Beat the Odds in full. So Next up, just a classic album. I've always really liked this album. I don't really like much else that this band has done other than this. But, and I love the artwork on here, as terrible as it is. But this is Only Theater of Pain by Christian Death. And I've been looking for a nice copy for quite some time. Originals go for crazy money these days. Here's the back artwork. And this one's on this weird, or kind of, well, I guess it's not too bad. It's like a clear brownish maroon. But it's a recent repress. And I found it for a decent price, so I went ahead and grabbed it. I'd like to have an original, but again, I'm just not going to pay the amount of money that they're going for. And a lot of people credit that with being kind of the start of the Gothic music. Next up, a little bit more Peter Gabriel. This is Genesis Live. This one, another one that I've been looking for a while. Every time I see it or find a copy, they're trash. This is recorded in 73. Or I'm sorry, was it 73? I'm pretty sure it was recorded in 73, but regardless, really good EP. Just a really killer live album. Next up, I think this is one of the all-time greatest hip-hop songs. It's definitely one of the all-time greatest beats. This was kind of the introduction of Dr. Dre. This is the single for Turn Off the Lights from the World Class Wrecking Crew. I saw this and I couldn't grab this one fast enough. I absolutely love this song. I used to play that over and over again. I had the single for that back in the 80s. And I used to listen to that non-stop. Just one of the all-time hip-hop beats there. Next up, I've shown this before. This would probably be in my top 15 all-time albums. I think this album is absolute genius. I've talked about this before. This album was so far ahead of its time. When I heard this in the early 90s, I thought it was a brand new album, and it wasn't. It's been out for over a decade at that point. And now, after 30 years, it sounds just as good now as it did when I first heard it. This is the self-titled album from Violent Femmes. I do have an original pressing of this, but my original pressing, the B-side, is kind of noisy. And I found this really nice 180 gram repress that was in mint condition for like $10, so I couldn't pass it up. Next up, Wipe the Windows, Check the Oil. This is the Allman Brothers Band live. I've just kind of been working on my Allman Brothers collection. Obviously my favorite Allman Brothers albums, or the Allman Brothers album, are the first two with Duane Allman. The guy was just an absolute genius. But I actually like pretty much everything they released in the 70s, and they got into the 80s, and I just completely lost interest. I don't like anything that they released during that time period. But this is a really nice live set from the mid 70s, and just all the hits are on here. Great album, definitely worth having in your collection. Next up is the Blade 2 soundtrack. I picked this up from a member of the VC, if I remember correctly. It's on this really cool clear blue vinyl. Again, I've had this one for quite some time, 7-8 months maybe. What I liked about this one is they took hip-hop and electronic music and mixed them together. Now, that's basically what... It's a common thing now that you're hearing in pop music, hip-hop and electronic music mixed together. But they took some of the biggest artists of the time. When was this? 2002. You've got even Fatboy Slim, Mos Def, and Massive Attack, Ice Cube and Paul Oakenfold, The Roots and BT, Cypress Hill and Roni Size, Redman and Gorillaz. Let's see, Volume 10, Roni Size, Bubba Sparks and the Crystal Method. I mean, these were all superstars at that point, and it's some really cool collaborations on here. Next, this is one I picked up for really cheap. When the Queen album, or the Queen box set first came out, I started, in the reissues, I started seeing the early pressings start selling for really cheap. So I've been grabbing them as I found them, and this is Queen 2. This isn't one of my favorites. There's a couple of good songs. Oh, I shouldn't say it. The whole album is good, but I don't remember any of these songs being big hits for the band. But it's all great. So it's Queen. Next up, Wheels of Fire from Cream live. This was another really cool find. I found this for $10. It's an original pressing and it was sealed. And I had to buy it. You know, you got Crossroads, Spoonful, Train Time, and Toad. Toad is amazing. Every song on here is amazing. Spoonful by Willie Dixon is just awesome. But and I've always loved the artwork of this. Now this was also released as a double album where you had, I believe it was, is it Wheels of Confusion is the album, and then the Wheels of Fire. I can't remember exactly, or maybe they were both called Wheels of Fire, and this is just the live part of it. But this is live at the Fillmore. Just a killer live set from, I mean, you got Ginger Baker, Jack Bruce, and Eric Clapton just at their best. Next up, a little bit of Bowie. First up, Never Let Me Down Extended Dance Remix, just a 12-inch. Never Let Me Down in 87 and Cry. You guys have seen my Bowie videos. You know I'm a fan. You know I love the guy. Next up, this was one of the Record Store Day releases. I may have shown this one too. I don't remember. I bought this on records. This is actually one of the few albums I actually bought on Record Store Day this year. But this is David Bowie, 1966. Versions of this have been released before, and if I remember correctly, these are all, yeah, these are the Pie singles from 1966. So these are his first couple of 7 inches compiled onto this 12-inch album. This is the brand new reissue of Changes 1. I already had the box set, so I already had pretty much everything that's been reissued. But they are slowly starting to reissue the stuff after that, so I went ahead and grabbed this. And I did the light trick, and I'll show you that if you're not familiar. Well, I can't do it. I'm using my phone to record. But this was released in both black vinyl and clear vinyl. And the way to find out if it's black or clear vinyl is to take the light on your phone and shine it on the back side here. And move the light down this direction. And if you can see the light on the other side, you know you've got a clear copy of the album. If the light disappears about here, you know you've got the black vinyl album, which I thought was a really cool trick. So I did that at the store and picked up the really nice clear pressing. And it sounds absolutely amazing. I mean, I love this album anyway. It doesn't get much better. I mean, it's all of his hit songs. Actually, it could get better if Heroes was on here. But, you know. Next up, this was maybe 2 Record Store Days ago. This is Earthling from Bowie. I'm not a big fan of Friday music. And it's not because they're not putting out great stuff. The stuff they're putting out's amazing. Pretty much all of it's been pressed at RTI, so it sounds beautiful. But they've got to, I don't know why they do this. All my Friday music pressings, the album is longer than 12 inches. It's like 12 and a half, 12 and 3/4 inches one way, and 12 inches, 12 and a quarter the other. So it doesn't fit in a record sleeve. Look at this. Hang on. This drives me crazy. You see how it drives me nuts. And I have a couple of Yes represses that they did as well. Yes shows and one other one. Again, this was on translucent green vinyl. It sounds beautiful. It sounds amazing. They did a great job pressing it. You know, again, it's RTI, one of the best in the business, if not the best in the business. And Friday Music, who does a great job. Again, why would you put it in a jacket that's too big? You know, you put it on the shelf, it sticks out. It drives me nuts. Next up, this is another one I've talked about. I talked about this in a What's Spinning. I liked this album the first time I heard it, but it wasn't a favorite of mine. And I ended up putting it away. It's in my CD somewhere. And then I ran across this copy on vinyl for $12, and for that price I wasn't going to pass it up. And after giving it a couple more spins, I'm really getting into it. This is Father John Misty, I Love You Honey Bear. I love the artwork on this thing. Father John Misty is neo-folk. I believe he was a singer in Fleet Foxes. Well, I don't know the band. I'm not really familiar with them. But if you like Sufjan Stevens or if you like Mark Koslick, any of the modern folk music, you're going to like the Father John Misty. Just a really good album. I look forward to checking out. I think he's got 2 other albums. So hopefully I can get a hold of those. I look forward to checking those out as well. Next up is the Beatles Love. This is a killer album. This is an original pressing. It just got repressed as well. But this is basically the soundtrack to the Cirque du Soleil show, Love. And it's just an amazing mix. It's got all their hits. They did a great job of mixing it. They did a great job of mastering it. It's basically continuous music, and it's awesome. Highly recommend checking this out if you're a Beatle fan. 2-album set. Comes with a really nice book as well. The Love show in Vegas is amazing. Really cool show. And I just like Cirque du Soleil. I like all their shows that I've seen. But the Beatles one and the Elvis one they do are both really killer. And then last but not least, this I basically got for 64 cents. And what happened with this was I was at Goodwill about 2 weeks ago, and I ran across the Buffalo Springfield debut album. I like some of the stuff that Buffalo Springfield released, some songs here and there, but their first album is all poppy stuff, and I didn't like any of it. It's not bad, it's just not my thing. Well, the copy that I found at Goodwill was a white label promo. I would have passed it up had it not been a white label promo because it wasn't in the best condition. It was playable, so I went ahead and grabbed it for the 64 cents or 72 cents, whatever it is, and brought it home. When I got it home, I went to look it up on the internet and started seeing crazy prices, like $200 to $500 range. And I was like, what's going on here? So it turns out that the first pressing had a track that was later deleted on all additional pressings. Basically, one of the singles they released had a B-side that ended up being a hit. So what they did is they pulled one of the unpopular songs off the album and put that hit song on the album. This was the unedited original version. Of course, it was a white label promo. The white label promos in mint condition go anywhere from $250 to $500. And even the black vinyl, or just the regular version of the album in mint condition is in the $100 to $200 range. Well, I looked it up, and because of condition, it's probably in the $50 to $70 range. So I took it to my local record store because the owner is a friend of mine, and he's also a huge Neil Young fan. I'm not. I really like Harvest. I really like Mirrorball. There's stuff from Neil Young I love, but there's a lot I just don't like. And brought it to him and decided to do a trade. Him being a Neil Young fan, he freaked out when he saw it. He was really happy. So we worked out a trade, and I traded him for this. He had a brand new copy of Let It Be Naked from the Beatles. This is one I've wanted for a long time. These are always overpriced here. You can find them for $40, $50 online. All the stores here carry them for $60 to $70. I've just always thought that was too much. I love this album, don't get me wrong. Let It Be is one of my favorite albums anyway. It's my second favorite Beatles album. I've talked about that before. I like this version a little bit better. This is stripped down. It doesn't have all the crazy production that was later added. This is how the Beatles originally wanted it to sound, and it's just an amazing album. One I highly recommend checking out if you haven't checked or gotten it though. But I was really happy to make this trade. Again, you know, I picked up that album for 70-something cents and was able to turn it into, you know, an album that was priced at $70 on the wall, which again, overpriced. But I'm really happy to have that in the collection. That's it. Last but not least, what we've been listening to. This is Operation Live Crime. This is Queensryche Live. This was in 91, it looks like. Yeah, it looks like it was recorded live in 91. But pretty cool. I picked this up for like $2 at one of the local used music stores. Really happy to find that one. That's pretty much it, VC. Tell me what you think. Give me your thoughts on some of these albums and recommendations. Other than that, take care, and I'll talk to you soon.